Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. The film is directed by Ryan Coogler and it stars Letitia Wright, Lupita Nyong'o, Danaya Guerrero, Winston Duke, Angela Bassett and Tanush Huerta. Now, the film is obviously the sequel to the giant hit that was Black Panther. It was a film that was an absolutely gigantic success, both commercially and critically, and is arguably one of the most beloved Marvel films. I think it's a good Marvel film, even a great Marvel film, but I don't think it's right up there with the best Marvel films, Black Panther. But it is indeed a very, very fine film that I supremely enjoyed. Now, the film essentially continues by addressing, obviously, the death of Chadwick Boseman. So there is a sequence at the beginning of the film where it deals with his death, i.e. the death of the King and Black Panther, and the grief associated with that. And I do think the film handles that absolutely superbly. I really, really do. It's very, very emotional, impactful, and I do applaud them for that. And then it kind of jumps forward in time. And the issue now that Wakanda has is like the other nations outside Wakanda kind of think they've been weakened. So there's like pressure on Wakanda to share its technology, share its vibranium, and they are kind of holding firm. So other nations are becoming desperate and they're looking for more vibranium. And there is this scientist that develops some device that can track vibranium. And this then leads these other nations outside Wakanda, the US, etc., to a new nation that essentially lives under the ocean, very much like Aquaman in DC, I suppose, as they have their own vibranium. And this nation is led by Namor. So he then comes to Wakanda and basically says, look, this is all your fault. I want you to go and get this scientist that's developed this device that could track vibranium, bring her to me. Otherwise, we're going to be at war. This isn't going to end well. This obviously doesn't go the way that Namor wants. Wakanda will not bow down, sort of thing. And this kind of leads to a devastating confrontation between Namor and his underground army. Right, what are my thoughts on Black Panther, Wakanda Forever? Well, I think, to a large degree, this film was always going to struggle after losing its lead, Chadwick Boseman. My understanding is that, the film was all written and ready to go. Obviously, the devastating passing of Chadwick forced Ryan Coogler and others to kind of frantically rewrite the film. And I think, unfortunately, that does show quite a lot when you watch this film. At parts, it does feel rushed. At parts, it feels, I don't know, it almost feels like it's been quilted together in some areas of the film. Something that I read, someone kind of observed that it kind of felt like a Disney Plus series that had kind of been sewn together into a film. And I kind of can relate to that. It does feel a little bit like that, like it's a 5 or 6 episode Disney Plus mini series that's kind of been put on the big screen. While I did certainly enjoy quite a lot of this film, and I thought it was visually stunning, I thought there were some fantastic performances, especially from Angela Bassett. I do think this film has its problems that I personally can't get past. Some of them are just a little bit stupid. It's all, I think Marvel are doing this more and more now, like these convenient plot devices or things that they think you're just not going to question or bother about. I think the film suffers from a weak villain. Now, Namor, I always thought when I was a kid, when I saw Namor in the comics, I thought he was awesome. He's a very powerful character if you actually, look into the history of Namor. And I just don't think this film does him justice. I'm not sure who came first, Namor or Aquaman. But if you stand this Namor next to Aquaman, Aquaman is by far the more charismatic and impressive character. I thought he was very forgettable, and I just didn't think his character brought an awful lot to the film. And I thought his plan and the plan itself was severely flawed. he wants this scientist brought to him that has developed this new device that can track vibranium. Why? If she's designed this device, either someone else is going to do it very quickly, because the person that designed it is like a 19-year-old student, like a Tony Stark wannabe almost. So someone else is going to design it very, very quickly, even if, she hadn't done it. So the cat's out of the bag. It doesn't matter whether if you get this scientist and kill her as he wants to do, what's the point? The cat's out of the bag by this point, because the US at one point in this film and other nations are like investigating this site of vibranium that leads them into a confrontation with Namor and his people. So the cat's out of the bag. What is the point? So the plan itself was really flawed and a bit stupid, I think. And I also couldn't get past. He's willing to go to war with Wakanda, and at one point in this film he wants to wipe out everybody on the surface because he wants to protect his own people and his underwater nation. But he wasn't prepared to come out of his hiding hole when, the Infinity Wars were taking place. He's happy to protect the vibranium, but what happened when the big click happened? Did that not take out half his people? Was he not happy to get involved in that fight because it involved everybody? So again, they don't explain any of that. And where in this film were the Avengers? Wakanda and the Black Panther has done so much for the world and the Avengers. Nobody turned up to his funeral, and none of the Avengers come and help at all in any way, shape or form. And they absolutely would have done. Somebody would have done. All of them would have done if they'd have just put in the call. And at the end of this film, they go to war with Namor and his people. Ring up Thor, ring up a few of the Avengers. They'll come and kick their ass with you. They're trying to create this massive universe where they're intertwining all these films. And then they try and present this film as like standing on its own 2 feet. This is all about Wakanda. Well, and why would you do that? Just make a call. They're happy to phone Martin Freeman in this film and ask him for help. And don't get me started on his part in this film. It was completely and utterly pointless. You could have cut all of Martin Freeman's bits out of this film and it would not have impacted it at all. He didn't need to be in the film. It was a waste of time. So I just found it all a bit odd in regards to the plots and the story. And the elephant in the room, unfortunately, is Black Panther's barely in the film. I understand why he's barely in the film, because you've got to create a new Black Panther. So it's almost like another origin story to a large degree. And I do sympathise with Ryan Coogler and the people that made this film. Can't have been easy to come up with a new story so quickly, and they've got to do another origin story to a large degree. But I just didn't feel Black Panther's appearance in this film was any near as impactful as his, appearance in the previous films. I was actually quite disappointed with the final battle for the most part. And there's a character that gets impaled in this film, and I don't want to spoil it. And I mean impaled by a vibranium spear. Excuse me, my cold and cough is kicking off again. And it's almost like it hasn't happened afterwards, immediately. And it's like, excuse me? I don't care what you're wearing, you've been impaled. And I don't care how good your technologies are. If you couldn't save your mother who drowned, you cannot just walk away from a spear through your guts. So yeah, it's just a bit odd. And there's characters in this film that just aren't given enough to do. Lupita Nyong'o's character, she's far too important an actress to just turn up and do what she does in this film, which is very little. I think they were spinning too many plates in this film. They were almost at an impossible task of trying to make this film work. Is it okay, this film? Yes, it's fine. It's a decent Marvel film, but I think they tried a little bit too hard to make what you could do an important film or a really impactful film. You're making a superhero film. Just worry about being entertaining. Try and make it as much sense as possible, and try and, just stop trying to overcomplicate things, or stop trying to do something other than making a really entertaining film. And I think if they'd have focused on that, I don't think they set out with the first one to think, "Ooh, this is going to change the playing field. I think they just set out to make a bloody good film, and that's what we got. I think the intention was to make a bloody good film this time, but obviously the odds were stacked against them because of things they couldn't control. But I think what they've delivered is a watchable film, and certainly decent film, and it is not what I would describe as one of the worst films in the Phase 4, but I think it's certainly not one of the best. I think it's somewhere in the middle, if I'm being completely honest. Didn't dislike it, but I was not going to lie, I did walk away a little bit disappointed from this one, which I think is a real shame. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you found it useful. I'll be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.